Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Johnny Keeley. I'm a photographer. I spend a lot of time out in the mountains and hills of the United Kingdom, taking photos of the beautiful landscapes. And in this video, I want to go through lots of different ways that you can use to discover new and exciting landscape photography locations for yourself. Word of warning though, some of these might freak you out, but we will see when we get there, right? I use Google Maps to store all of the different locations that I discover through the methods that I'm going to go through in this video. But then I'll also use Google Street View to research in more detail where I'm going to park and things like that. And then I'll also use Google Earth to kind of look at the landscape almost from a giant drone view so you can get an idea of where you actually are. So essentially I'm saying for all of these, I would use the Google tools to just really hone in on what it is that you want to find. But let's get started. First one of these is Instagram. Instagram has actually become a really powerful way to discover locations. And you might think that you already know about this, but you may not know that Instagram has actually had a pretty big update to their kind of location system. So now if you click on a location tag, it will sort of take you into a map where you can see all of the photos that were taken at that location, which is how it used to be. But now you can kind of zoom out a little bit and click explore or, search this area, and it will find all the different sort of areas nearby and show you all of the photos from that place. So it's almost like a one-stop shop for looking at places where people are taking photos in that area, which is essentially really, really useful to us photographers. I think this is a really great way for landscape photographers and hikers to discover these locations. I just don't really quite like how everyone can discover these locations, which means that kind of bad actors can also find all these beautiful spots that aren't really equipped to deal with hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people. But anyway, this is a really great place to find locations, but also kind of get inspired by photography that other people are doing. The next place is a really good passive place to find new locations. This is Facebook hiking groups. If you're not part of any Facebook hiking groups, if you're a Facebook user, I recommend just finding some really good kind of like UK hiking. If you just search, you'll find a whole bunch of groups with tens of thousands of people in it. And what this kind of does is it means that your Facebook feed will be filled with very passive amateur photography from hikers all around the UK. And what's nice is that they're actually really detailed. So people will go off on hikes and take 20, 30 photos of their journey. But these kind of won't spoil the fun of finding your own compositions because they're not taking landscape shots. They're just taking pictures of where they were. And it might be that you go, that's a nice ridge line, or that's a nice peak over there, or I can see some rocks in the foreground here. I wonder where that is. And then you just look through the comments. You will find lots of details of where they are. And you can also just comment yourself and ask them what the route was or where they went. And then again, you bring those across into Google Maps. And this is a nice one because it's quite passive and it just means that you can kind of discover things as you go. You don't have to do research. It will just pop up on your Facebook page and you'll go, that's a cool looking place. I'll add that to my list for later. Another great way of discovering locations or researching locations is just to watch hiking videos on YouTube. You'll find there's lots of YouTubers who are just going off on hikes, explaining their routes and talking about where they are. And it might be that on that journey, you see something in the background that is something that you think you'd like to visit. And you can obviously just, again, add that location to your list, but you're getting a really detailed look at that area, and maybe they're explaining like where to park and all the different routes that you can take. Can be really handy for getting to know an area, which means you can kind of get a head start in finding these different locations. Now, I make videos like this as well. I make videos of me going out. So if this is what you're into, then obviously subscribe to my channel so that you can see my videos in the future. Now, as I said, one of these is going to freak you out. The next one is actually a VR app. It's an app called Wander, and it's brilliant. It's basically like Street View, but for mountains. The experience you get when you put on a VR headset and you find yourself on top of a mountain, I promise you, you do start looking for compositions. It's very different than seeing a photo of an area. You're kind of just there and you're looking around all the different things and you can move to all the different photo points that some people have added over time. And it's a really, really powerful way of just seeing a view and kind of being immersed in it as if you are there. It's not like being there, but it's much closer than any other way of seeing an area. So for example, a couple of years ago, I started researching Goat Fell on the Isle of Arran. I've not actually managed to get there yet, but I have been there in this app and I've understood where it is that I want to go and I've had a good look at it, and you can get an immersive look at all of the routes and all the different places that you're going to go to, and your body just soaks it up in a different way. So as I said, the traditional people might not have tried VR, but if you happen to be interested or you have a VR headset, this is a really interesting app and it's really great for landscape photographers because, you can kind of be there without being there. The next great place to discover new landscape photography locations is books like this one. There are all sorts of books for all the different locations around the UK and obviously where you are. But this one's called Photographing Snowdonia Mountains. These books are really great because it doesn't just give you information about it, but you actually see photographs and things as well. So where are we? With a round of Macklin Mawr. These books are really great because you get loads of information about the route and the place and some example photographs and also some gear, what gear you should be taking and, different times of year, all those sorts of things. And it kind of brings it all into one place. They are really good. They're quite expensive. This is £25, this book. They're pretty expensive, but also quite hard to put together. So I do realise that the authors and publishers of this book kind of deserve that high price, but they are expensive. So, bear that in mind. Now, the thing I have with these books is you do kind of feel like you're walking in someone else's footsteps. You kind of, you're going where they went and taking photos that they've already taken. But you can obviously find other stuff on the way. You don't have to take that same photo, but you do get a sense of that when you're doing it. But it's really, really great way to discover new locations. And I'll be honest, this kind of information isn't really anywhere else on the internet, in my opinion. If you're looking at blog posts and all these different things, it doesn't really pull it all together in the way that these books do. I'll leave a link to this book and the series, but there are all sorts of books like this. If you just head to Waterstones, you'll find a section on photography, probably landscape photography. Another really interesting kind of passive way of discovering locations is just making a note of places you see in movies. Like if you're watching a film and something just pops up, it's probably, a specific place. Like, a lot of stuff's filmed in Ireland, a lot of stuff's filmed in Scotland, and in Iceland and Faroe Islands, and you kind of sometimes miss it. For example, there's a shot in The Witcher. I think it's season 3, was it? Season 2, I can't remember. But it was the Old Man of Storr. But they've changed it and done a load of CGI, so it doesn't quite look like it. But anybody who knows that area would have known, that was at the Old Man of Storr. So you kind of see these places in movies, and if you just Google it, like where was this filmed, you'll be able to find it and then just add that to your list. Now, I'm sure that you're watching movies and TV shows at some point, and if you are and you see something you like, just make a mental note to Google it and find out where it was filmed. Now, the most important one, all of these things that I'm talking about is totally useless without actually going outside and exploring, because you get a totally different feel. If you research a location, okay, and then you go there, you can be totally overwhelmed by the area because you'd be like, well, the place I wanted to go to was here, but it's not really easy to park. I don't really know the route. And also there's loads of other really interesting stuff around it that I didn't see on the internet. It can totally overwhelm you. And what I would recommend for those sort of situations is go on low pressure hikes or recce's or whatever. Decide to go to a place where you're not going to take any photos. You're literally just going to drive about, maybe go for a few walks and just take a look at the area and really soak it up. Sometimes if you put all the pressure on the first time you go to a location, that's when you want to take your best shots. If you want to see a sunset up a mountain, you've got to hike down in the dark. Or if you want to see a sunrise up a mountain, you've got to hike up in the dark. And if it's the first time you've been there, that's really difficult. It's really hard to park in pitch black at 4 or 5 in the morning and find the right route up. You're setting yourself up for a lot of failures there. So I would go low pressure, just go out for hikes, spend time outdoors and make a note of all these places that you see. You can do all this research on the internet, but finding it for yourself and just exploring areas and getting to know how it's all connected up is a really, really underrated way of discovering new locations. The trouble is, it just takes a lot of time. But this next one is something that can really help you with that. This is AllTrails, which is a website for hikers that gives you routes and details about all the different mountains, hills, different walking routes and things like that. The great thing with AllTrails is it's great for finding routes, but it's also filled with loads of amateur photography from those trails. So it's great to get inspired by kind of photos that aren't landscape shots. They're amateur photos. Some of them look beautiful because they're beautiful places, but it doesn't kind of ruin the fun of going like, I wanted to kind of discover the shot for myself. I don't want to just see a wall of amazing landscape photography. This is different to that. Some of the information that you can get from these websites is things like elevation or the time it's going to take you or the distance it's going to be, where you're going to park, all the different routes up there. It's a really great place to kind of discover these things and bring it all together. And something else that I find really useful is you can actually download the GPX route from the website, which I can then put onto my phone and on my watch, which I find really, really useful because I don't want to run out of batteries on my phone. So I've got it on my watch. That makes life just a little bit easier. It takes a bit of the pressure off when you're out there trying to take photos. So AllTrails is a really, really great thing. Now, once you've gone through all of these methods and you've added everything with Google Maps, you end up with this kind of library of amazing places that you forget when you actually even added it to the Google map, but you might be in a location in North Wales or the Peak District or Scotland or anywhere around the world, and you'd be like, oh, there was like 7 places that I've said to go to around here. And it kind of takes the pressure off. Thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you will find something over at my photography adventures playlist just here. And I guess I will see you over there.